Possibly the most controversial capital in franchise history to date, Tom Wilson has become notoriously known as one of the league's most dirty players. His frequent disregard for the overall safety of players has angered not only opposing teams but also fan bases. In this video, I'm going to go over the top jerk moments displayed thus far from Tom Wilson himself. So get those stretchers and ambulances ready as we count down to number 1. During the Washington Capitals' historic playoff run in 2018, Wilson seemingly upped his game, just a little, as the forward was delivering cheap shots just about every game. But since this is a ranking, we'll start out with, in my opinion, the most disrespectful but least debilitating act of them all. This one took place in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Cedric Paquette, who was on the receiving end of a stick to the face by Mikhail Kempny, and obviously in some discomfort, lied in a fetal position as play was stopped. Wilson, who obviously knew the guy was hurt, decided to rub it in a little by tapping the forward with his stick blade. If that's his way of saying get well soon, I've gotta say, he's going about it entirely wrong. Before the Capitals made it to the third round of last year's playoffs, they first had to go through a familiar foe, the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Wilson pretty much did just that, as he went through players injuring them left and right. But as far as Connor Sherry was concerned, well, he was one of the luckier ones. After tipping the puck into the offensive zone, Sherry fell victim to a knee-on-knee collision, compliments of Tom Wilson. Sherry, who was obviously in pain, finished the game out and was thankfully back for the next contest. For his actions, Wilson received no in-game penalty, but was fined around $2,400. During the first game of the first round the Caps played en route to Lord Stanley, Wilson decided to give Alexander Wennberg a check he'd never forget. During the early stages of the final period, as the puck was deep in the offensive zone, Wilson, Wennberg, and Alex Ovechkin all went into the boards upon attempting possession. Wilson, who sees an opportunity, takes advantage and leaves his skates and launches his elbow into the head of the forward, who then falls into the Capitals' captain before falling to the ice. Ovechkin, being the better man, immediately apologized to the Swede for his part in the ordeal. Wilson was given a minor penalty, which ultimately gave the Blue Jackets the game-winning goal. Even though his team got the W, Wennberg wasn't in the mood for celebration following the game, as the forward, following assessment, suffered an upper body injury. After playing in 3 postseason games for the Capitals in his NHL debut, Wilson was quickly earning his reputation in the following season. During the second period of a regular season meeting against the Flyers, Wilson, who decided to launch himself into the puck carrier at the time, Schenn, caused absolute chaos to erupt. Wilson could be shown deliberately gaining momentum before plowing into the unassuming forward, who, after trying to skate away, immediately fell to his knees and then the ice. As the team trainer tended to Schenn, the two teams duked things out behind the net. The play went uncalled, and no further discipline was dealt to the perpetrator. In case you didn't know, this incident takes us back in time to a rather intense playoff series that took place back in 2015 between the Capitals and the Islanders. During the game, Wilson took it upon himself to become the villain as he launched himself into defenseman Libomir Wisnowski, instantly knocking him to the ice. The hit itself wouldn't have been quite as bad if the former Blue Liner hadn't been sidelined due to a concussion just a few days earlier. Therefore, this sparked an immense amount of animosity between the two teams, including, and certainly not limited to, Kyle Exposo calling Wilson an idiot, Anders Lee challenging the forward to a scrap, and an incident with Long Island's own Casey Cizikas that saw Wilson getting speared below the belt. In round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, it could easily be said that Tom Wilson was the thorn in the Penguins' side. As it seemed, almost every game a player was going down with injury, at the hands of the Caps forward. And in Game 2 of the second round, it was defenseman Blindsiding Dumoulin who was the apparent target. Dumoulin, who was obviously more concentrated on making a pass in the defensive zone, was blindsided while doing so. The blue liner did see Wilson seemingly last second and tried to react, but instead was knocked to the ice. In a similar occurrence as the Wenberg injury, Ovechkin was also involved, but again wasn't the one initiating the contact. The hit went unpunished, as many ruled that the hit was just accidental. While Sidney Crosby is known for having an office behind the net, well, you could say Tom Wilson does too, as a handful of his most brutal hits seemingly occur behind the cage. This one took place during a regular season match against the New Jersey Devils. As John Moore went to make a pass in the defensive zone, sound familiar yet? Wilson steamrolls the blue liner, instantly incapacitating him. The hit caused Moore's head to viciously collide with the boards and sent the defenseman away on a stretcher. Wilson, yet again, faced no discipline in result. There's really no understandable reason not to hate the guy that fractures your jaw, especially during a playoff series, as Zach Ashton Reese fell victim to the forward's careless antics in the postseason last year. During the second round of the playoffs in 2018, Wilson is shown giving a high hit to the head of the New York native. After undergoing surgery and receiving several steel plates and screws to put his jaw back together, Ashton Reese was unable to train in the offseason for over a month, and also unable to eat solid foods for much longer. But once he was able to, the forward was sure to celebrate with an Instagram selfie. Now, if you thought the last hit was bad, well, think again, because this one is a whole lot worse. This hit saw Wilson yet again headhunting with an illegal check to the head of Sundqvist, instantly incapacitating him and landing him with a rap sheet of injuries. Sundqvist suffered a shoulder injury, facial laceration, and most importantly, a concussion. The incident put the winger out of the lineup for over a month and saw Wilson suspended initially for 20 games. It's obviously a pretty bad hit, Sundqvist says. People saying that he hit my shoulder, he hit my head. I think you can avoid that. What is it, 16 games since his last suspension? So obviously something needed to show him, I guess, with the 20 games. We'll see, Sundqvist says.
Marchessault's down here officiating. Van Massenhoven is the series supervisor. Look at how far the puck is away. I mean, there's no way that that's just a follow-through hit.